Do I need therapy? When should I go? What's therapy like? These are just a few questions people often have. As a therapist myself, I'm going to talk through these questions with you to see if that can give you some more information to help you decide what's right for you. Let's start with the first question. What is therapy? But first, my name is Keegan. I have a master's degree in counseling and I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor. Keep in mind that engaging with this channel does not constitute a therapist-client relationship. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes. This does not substitute or replace professional mental health care. What is therapy is a great question. And first of all, we should talk about some of the different names that therapy can go by because this can get a bit confusing. You might hear people talk about therapy, counseling, psychotherapy, and more. While there might be some slight or technical differences to some of these terms, overall they're used pretty interchangeably and to talk about the same thing. Throughout the video, to keep it more simple, I'll just be sticking with the term therapy. The other piece of this is that usually when people talk about therapy, they're talking about individual therapy. There can also be times where a couple will go, so that would be couples therapy, or where a family will go, which would be family therapy. As we go through these questions, I will again be sticking just with the individual version because that's the most common. With individual therapy, that's where the person will go and talk to the therapist themselves. So it will just be them and the therapist in the room talking through what's on their mind. While it sounds maybe simple or like that wouldn't do anything, actually talking to a therapist can have profound effects for people. Throughout the session, the therapist will use different techniques in how they're interacting with the person or things that they teach the person to help them make the changes in their life that are going to be the most helpful for them. It's hard to say exactly what to expect from this part of therapy because each therapist can be so different, the techniques they use can vary, and the reason that the person's going to therapy may also change what it looks like. In general though, therapy will include figuring out how to manage situations differently, strengthening the person's ability to do what they're already doing, managing stress that's coming up in life, processing through past events that have happened that are sticking with the person, and finding new things that they can do that might be helpful. This brings us to the second question. Why go to therapy? The most simple answer here is that there is no right or wrong reason to go to therapy. For most people, they find that a therapist can be a neutral and supportive person in their life, and that having this kind of a person for them can help them manage and get through difficult times. Think about it like this. How often in your life do you have someone that will just listen to you, sit with you no matter how difficult the conversation is, and will devote their time to you and only you? Having that time and relationship with a therapist is a huge factor for so many people. And in fact, we find that the relationship with a therapist is one of the biggest factors that is helpful for people. Aside from various life stressors that can come up, some people may also struggle with their mental health, and this can be what brings them into therapy. It may be struggles with anxiety, depression, or trauma, or other concerns like OCD, schizophrenia, or a personality disorder. And there can be so many other mental health factors that people can struggle with and that can bring them into therapy. Next, people ask, when should I go to therapy? Again, there's no right or wrong time to start therapy. One thing to consider though is that many therapists have wait lists, and so it might not be a bad idea to try to get started sooner rather than later. This is the case for so many things in life. The more that we put them off, the harder it may become or the more things that we then have to work through. This does make me think of the stigma about going to therapy. Although the views and stigma around mental health have changed over time, they're definitely still there. People might think that going to therapy means that they're weak, crazy, hysterical, or a lunatic. But that's simply not true. In fact, I find that the people that go to therapy are some of the strongest. They have pushed through the stigma, asked for help, and are willing to work on themselves. They might be scared, uncertain, or anxious, and they do it anyway. When it comes to the stigma about mental health, here's a way to think about it. If someone's not feeling well and finds that they're not getting better in the time that they expected that they would, they will probably go to the doctor and get checked out. They're probably not spending much time thinking about what other people are thinking about them before going to the doctor. However, for a lot of people, when it comes to going to a therapist for their mental health, they will spend a lot of time thinking about what others might think of them for this and may put it off because of that. But why should seeing a therapist be any different than seeing a medical doctor? Speaking of what can hold people back, that brings us to the next question. But first, if you're enjoying this video and finding it helpful, please help me out by giving it a like and subscribing. What is therapy like? For some people, not knowing what therapy is like or what to expect from it can be the thing that will hold them back. It's hard to say exactly what therapy will be like for you because that's going to depend on you and the therapist that you see. But I can broadly speak to some of the elements that people might find that they get from therapy. Often a good therapist is going to feel like a great friend. And although they aren't really your friend in that same way, they're there to support you, to listen to you, to understand you. And they don't expect anything from you in return. So you don't have to worry about meeting your therapist's needs, about what they're going to think, or if it's going to be upsetting for them to hear something. That's on the therapist to manage and figure out for themselves. And that's part of that role that they're in. That is something that is very different than a lot of the relationships that we're in, and part of what makes therapy very helpful for people. We also talk about therapy as if it's one thing, but really, therapy is different based on each therapist. Each therapist is going to bring their own unique approach and style to therapy. This can be influenced by the theories that they pull from, their experience doing therapy and what they think you may need, as well as their personality. So if you're working with a therapist and you feel like you just don't click, it's okay to find a new one. One of the biggest factors in the benefits of therapy come from the therapeutic relationship. So the relationship that you and your therapist have. Something else to be aware of, especially if you've never been to therapy before, but even if you have, is that especially in those early sessions, it's very normal to be anxious and nervous about it. And if you do find yourself feeling anxious or nervous in those early sessions, it's definitely okay to talk to your therapist about that. And also, don't consider that a sign of something being wrong or off. It may just be a reaction that you're having because therapy is a very vulnerable space. At the same time, it's important that you click and feel comfortable with the therapist. So if you're finding that after a number of sessions, that feeling's not going away or you're still really feeling uncomfortable, that might be a sign that you may want to switch therapists. However, this can also be a part of some people's mental health struggles. And in those cases, it's really good to talk to the therapist about this. It may be good for them to be aware of it if they are not already, and they might have ideas to help you with those feelings. There might also be things on their end that they can do to help change that and make it a more comfortable experience for you. There might be other times where you meet with a therapist once and you just know it's not right. And in those cases, if that's how you're feeling, know that that is perfectly okay and it's very appropriate to find a new therapist. And now, last but not least, on to the final question. How do I get started with therapy? There are many ways to go about this. You can definitely ask friends, family members, or other trusted people in your life if they have a therapist that they might recommend. Your doctor may also be a good person to check with, as they may have somebody that they would recommend for you and be able to refer you to. Another option can be checking with your insurance company, as they may be able to tell you some therapists in your area that accept your insurance. You can also check with your employers, as some offer an employee assistance program, or EAP, which may provide you with some therapy sessions covered by your employer. One of the simplest ways to find a therapist, though, might be using Google. A quick search for therapists in your area may provide you with a range of different therapists to check out. So go and take a look at their website if they have one, read about them, and start to get to know them that way. This may help you find people that are a good fit for you. Once you found someone that you think might be a good fit, reach out to them and schedule your intake appointment. Those are some common questions that people have about therapy. What other questions do you have that I might be able to answer? Let me know in the comments and you may see them in an upcoming video. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope that you found it helpful. While you're here, make sure that you check out some of the other videos on my channel. Thank you so much for watching.